All right. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Bugbear's Basement. I am Chester C. Busby III, and I am joined by Booster, the Denali
It's
Llama,
me.
and it is you, and Tank Ferret. And we have a few others who will be joining us a little bit later. But today we're going to be talking about Animal Man, specifically from Grant Morrison. But we'll get into that in a minute. We'll give a little bit of time here for people to come in and join us. And but first thing we want to do is, of course, talk about the events and activities we have going on here. Keep in mind that today is the deadline for the art contest. I know there's several of you. I've
Oh
seen that
crap! It is.
it is, and I've seen
Okay, I'm
several
gonna
of
get to
you
mine right
that
now.
please, thank you, Booster. Several of you I've seen are working on, but you haven't submitted it yet. And by the end of today, you need to have those submissions in. Because tomorrow we're having our special Halloween show at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We moved it back a little bit because we wanted to give everyone a little extra time, seeing as it is Halloween night. But certainly come and join us for the Halloween show. We got a lot of cool things going on. And one of the two main things we have going on amongst the other ideas is we have, of course, the art contest straw poll, which we'll be doing and have everybody voting on, and of course, we'll also be having the Comics Titans fundraiser raffle. Now, if you haven't got involved in that, this is actually going really well. It's doing pretty well. They've raised some good money over there. What you go to do is go to Comics Titans fundraiser on Facebook. It's very easy to find, and you will see a thing that it says where you can give your money in. And what you do is you for $3 you get one raffle ticket, and for $5 you get two. And those raffle tickets will be on our show tomorrow. We'll be doing drawings, and there's a lot of cool prizes. These prizes are they have comic books, they have statues, they have role-playing games. A lot of stuff has been donated from pros. Some things have been signed, I've heard, and so there's a lot of cool stuff going on with that. And we, definitely want to get in there, get your raffle tickets, and come in so you have a chance to win. The other cool thing about it is what they're doing it for, and it's to raise money so that they can help people in the community who can't afford to get some of these books. So they're getting PDF and actual physical copies, case by case. I'm not sure if they've completely switched over to physical copy to give out to people from throughout the community and let them have those books. And they're already starting to put money out. So it's really cool what's going on. Go get involved. There's some really cool prizes, and of course we'll be doing that tomorrow. Uh, and just keep in mind, we have all our links down below. If you want to be on the show and be a guest, just go to Chester C. Busby III on Facebook. The link's down there. And tell me, put me on the show, and Chester will do so. Also, you have the FanSpeak Facebook group, which is growing every day. So come and join us over there and give us your opinions, give us your reviews, share your art, share everything about the community. The whole point of the FanSpeak, actually, everyone, is to have a hub. A place where news can be centered, where everyone could come and find the news that's going on in the community, where they can find out all the activities and fundraisers and contests and all that kind of stuff that's going on throughout the community. And we're working very hard to make that a central hub. That is our goal. And it'll take time, but we're working on it, and we'd really appreciate it if you came and help us work on that as well. We have our podcasts as well, which you can go check those out. I will be adding more of those actually today. And of course, down below, we also have our Streamlabs donation link. Now, that donation, understand, that is for giveaways. If you guys want us to have giveaways like we did, where Trusty Sidekick won a copy of the trade for Craven's Last Hunt, and if you want us to do more of those things, then go support that. So those are all our links, and let's come talk to the guys a little bit before we get into today's subject. So, how you feeling today, Booster? Is it nice down in the New Zealand landy?
Oh, I'm doing very well. It is a absolutely lovely day today in the New Zealand, or Aotearoa as we call it,
Oh, Aotearoa. What is that? I've never heard that before.
as the Maori way of saying it, or the land of the long white cloud.
Oh, I see. Well, see, the
Hmm.
land of the long white cloud is much cooler than Age Guguri. What was it?
Aotearoa.
Aotearoa. I don't know. Okay, it could grow on me, I guess. And how you doing today, Denali Lama?
I'm doing well. Just running around, doing stuff, doing more stuff, being busy,
Okay.
jumping
Great.
around.
Oh, thanks for joining us. And of course, we also have Tank Ferret on here with us today. Great artist. How you doing today?
Thank you. Good. Thank you.
Oh, excellent. And
How you
we're going
doing,
to be
man?
talking about Animal Man today, Tank. So we're going to be giving you probably a good hour to talk solid about Animal Man. You ready?
I am, sir.
Sweet. So we are absolutely good to go, man. Everyone is ready, and we're going to get into Animal Man. Just matter of fact, as we always say, help us out. Of course, the likes and subs are great. Keep doing that, and we appreciate that incredibly. But the thing that helps us the most is hit that share button and send it out to the communities. Over here in the chat, hello, William. How you doing, William? And we will be watching the chats and responding to them as we go, of course. But we might as well go ahead and get into Animal Man. The first thing I wanted to do before we before we did that, I wanted to talk a little bit about which Animal Man we're talking about mainly today, and of course, that is Grant Morrison's. Now, I'm going to go ahead and share this with you guys over here, and so you can see as well. Now, first of all, I think we need to talk about Grant Morrison himself, and he's
The absolute madman himself.
the absolute madman. Now, he's a Brit. There was several Brits that came over at around the same time, and I think it was Alan Moore that kicked that off, to be honest with you. But
Hmm.
he is one of the British invasion, if you want to call it that, and he had some very interesting views and very interesting ways of doing things, and he was actually the perfect choice for Animal Man, I think. But why don't we talk a little bit about Grant Morrison first, before we get into actually talking about the comics that he made? So, Booster, why don't you tell us your thoughts on Grant Morrison?
All right. Grant Morrison, also a writer of the absolute best Superman story, All Star Superman. If you haven't read it, you should probably go read it. Uh, how do we put it? He tends to just do absolutely nutty stories that go crazy in depth, just existential nonsense. We got his multiversity story. He likes to break the fourth wall, that's for sure, and write comics as if they were real in of themselves, and if they were watching the viewer in a way.
Absolutely, no. He is absolutely an oddball, I think would be a good way to put it. But the thing is,
Nutter.
he's really
Yeah.
good at writing, man. I like his stuff.
Mhm.
What about you, Denali? What's your opening opinions on Grant Morrison?
Well, kind of like how you mentioned, he's part of the British invasion that included Neil Gaiman,
Hmm.
Peter uh, Milligan, Jamie Delano, and then the ever-present, ever-temperamental Alan Moore, who created the classic like his Swamp Thing run and the Watchman and many other ones
Sure.
that
Well, I think Alan
that
Moore.
people.
I think Alan Moore was the inception, actually. I think they got Alan Moore and they said, "Wow, hey, maybe there's some great writers that are Britain," and they went over there trying to dig them out. I think that's how it happened. I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure Alan Moore was the beginning of it, actually.
Well, we got some good
Yeah,
ones out of it, didn't we? We got
Yeah,
Grant
we did.
Morrison, Mark Millar, Garth Ennis.
Garth
yeah.
Ennis, I love that guy.
So yeah,
Hmm.
and kind of like moving on with Alan Moore, but going back to Grant Morrison, he's a professed vegetarian animal rights activist and a person who took amazing amount of LSDs so he
LSD,
can
yeah. You made it sound very
yeah
sexual the way you put it. Yeah, it's not. It's LSD, not LSDs.
LSDs.
LS double Ds.
Ooh.
And I
LS
think
Harry
one of the
D's.
interviews he had, and I think you can hear it with on the podcast with Kevin Smith with Fat Man on Batman, one of the earlier ones before he moved on to the show onto YouTube. Grant was talking about how he took that type of drugs, acid, and everything for awareness of reality, where he met space aliens and um, had a super dimensional experience where he's like lost in everything before he came back crashing down into his mortal body.
Well,
And this is the type
haven't we all? Haven't we all?
yeah.
Um,
Um, and this is those types of reactionary insights that fuels his madness in his writing, where you're wondering where is he going, and in it, and it somehow, because his comic, it works for him, kind of like his Batman run, where Batman didn't know his reality and he was compiling the crazy 1950 Czar Bat from the other planet, where Batman's wearing all that multicolor suit and everything.
Right. Batman Rip. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
and
nuts.
Actually, one of my favorite things he did was JLA. I love that JLA run. That was really cool.
And then he also did Doom Patrol.
Yeah.
And he started his the craziness around issue 19 or 20 after his run with Animal Man. So he did, like, I think the first 12 issues of Animal Man, and then he moved over to Doom Patrol afterward.
Well, keep in mind that we were talking about Animal Man today, and during the writing of Animal Man that he actually became a vegan. It was actually during the writing of that comic that he changed his life over to that. And he's not just an animal rights activist; he is a member of the Animal Rights Liberation League supporters army. It's not that simple that he's simply like PETA or something. He supports at least some pretty aggressive people, and it's very interesting that he's very free and open to mention that he's part of that. I thought. But thank you, Denali. Tank, why don't you give us your opening impressions of Grant Morrison, man?
Grant Morrison is he's one of those interesting guys. You know, he can spin a yarn, and you might be scratching your head at the end of it, but even though you got the story, you're still kind of scratching your head, like, wait, I just read all of that. I loved his like JLA run. I have to absolutely agree. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, it was.
But I always felt that he was better suited to writing Vertigo titles than the regular DC titles.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, I can see that point. Although I do agree with Booster. I did like his All Star
All Star Superman.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's my absolute favorite Superman story.
Cool. Well, go ahead, continue.
All Star.
Is that
Oh,
all
you're
you have to
talking-
say, Tank?
Yeah, that's it.
Okay. No, that's fine. All right.
I mean, you can study him, but I honestly, like, Dr. Wright is better for that. I can break down artwork, but Dr. Wright's the guy to break down the writing.
Oh no, I see what you're saying. I just figured we should talk about this guy because he's quite the personality. He's a very famous writer. He's had a lot of success, as Booster had said. We got a lot of great stuff from those British guys that came over in that time. Some really good books. But I just don't think you can talk about Animal Man without talking about Grant Morrison because in my opinion, he is Animal Man.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yes, absolutely. No, that is a transplanted character.
Yeah.
Totally.
And he, another thing that he does that's kind of interesting, and and it's weird. I'm kind of curious because we have like Alfred Hitchcock, we have Stephen King, we have several other directors that will put themselves in their movie somewhere as little cameos, right? And everyone's like, oh, that's cool. But this guy puts himself in his own comics, and not only his own comics, he showed up in other comics as an actual character. For some reason, it doesn't seem as cool to me when an artist put themselves in their comic as it does when a director puts himself in the movie. I don't know why that is, but I just feel that it's not as cool. There's something odd about that. You guys have any opinion on that?
Well, issue 58 of Doom Patrol, he was one of the guys that got killed in their trademark suicide mission.
Yeah.
But but a more serious motion. I mean, I get where you're coming from. It's the same thing how people dislike Stephen King writing himself heavily in the last book or two books of Dark Tower. And it's like they didn't feel like it was necessary, but the author, Stephen King, felt it was necessary. So for the story to move along. So I don't know about his own cameos and his own insertions for it, or maybe it's just another way of deconstructing the comics, poking fun and giving the fourth way, hey, look, this is not real, mate. Look, I'm in the comic kind of deal.
Yeah. Now,
I felt it worked in the context of Animal Man when Grant Morrison appeared, because we were constantly getting fourth wall breaks within Animal Man, and while he was searching for a way to bring back his family near the end of the Grant Morrison arc, and he traveled all the way into Limbo, where all the forgotten characters were, where he went into, funnily enough. And that's where Grant Morrison was explaining to him how just comics worked, how his reality worked, and all of that, and just why he was writing Animal Man this way. So I felt it worked in that context.
oh, there you go. He does do a lot of that, and we're talking specifically today about number 5. But if you guys have any points about any of the other ones, any of the other comics he did, I think he did what, 26 or I think 26 Animal Mans, right? And before he moved on to other stuff.
I'm going to look it up.
I'm pretty sure. I think it was 26. That's sticking in my head. But yeah, no. If you have any other things to bring in, because he does a lot of that weird stuff. But let's go ahead and take a look at this cover art we have here. It's a pretty interesting cover. That's one thing I'd say about Animal Man. The covers are really great. We have Morrison,
Right.
we have Trug, and we have Hazelwood. And it's a DC, but I know eventually it was kind of jumped over to Vertigo, but at this point, I guess it was still in DC. And we have
Right.
Animal Man lying sprawled out here on the road, which references something that happens in the comic, actually. But then you have this artist sitting here and trying to complete the painting. Now, we've seen these kind of things before. What do you guys think about this cover? Is it pretentious or is it just cool?
Well, it's informing the reader about 3 things that they're going to be discussing about. The first one is the religious aspect, because you see Animal and Buddy in a religious pose.
That is true.
Of the whole Christian thing, the Christ on the cross. You see even the tracks is the cross that he's bearing on the ground. And then reflecting the hand is God who's crafting the story, that this is going to happen regardless whether you like it or not. But then it comes with the fourth breaking wall that Booster was mentioning, that he's breaking the wall and saying, this is just a comic book, this is just a painting, this is cartoon. So nothing really matters at the end, because it's just disposable. So it's just a big, giant reminder that this is just a disposable story, that whether you like it or not, you read it, and it's up to you to decide whether it's important or not to you.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And of course, this comic in particular is the Coyote Gospel that we're talking about. I don't know if that's actually referenced in here. It probably is. But the Coyote Gospel is considered it's one of those well-respected and high thought-of books. And I thought it was very interesting because this week's choice is Booster's choice. This is Booster, his Animal Man. And each week we're going to have a new, a new book coming from. We're going to rotate through each other and choose our own books. And I'm kind of curious what we're going to be talking about next week. The thing I'm going to say right off the bat before we get into this, I always thought it was very interesting with this comic, because I read this when it came out, actually. And I never understood what all the big hype was about the Coyote Gospel. I never got it. But I read it again yesterday, and we're going to read through a good chunk of it again today. And maybe along the way, with other people's opinions there, you guys are going to shine some light on my thick ignorance. So
I'm not going to lie. When I first I put it down, and I was kind of stunned, and I was thinking, Was that a bunch of nonsense, or was that way too deep for me? We're gonna. That was my impression the first time I read
Well,
it.
he himself said that it's a bunch of gibberish.
Ah,
He said
yes.
this himself, right?
Well, that's not helpful.
Well, I mean,
Well, it's part of the postmodernism deconstruction that is more prevalent in today's comic than it was back then, and people didn't know what it is. With deconstruction postmodernism, it can be gibberish. It's whatever the reader interprets and get out of the story. If the person got nothing out of the story, then the story was rubbish. And if people got something out of the story, then it had some value and meaning for it. So he kind of left it up to the readers. You decide. Excuse me. You decide what kind of story you want this to be. And it's telling the reader to make up their own mind to decide what they want.
yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get right into it, and hopefully it'll align to more people who join us. So guys, go ahead and share this out. But I do know that Ethan decided to come on an hour early today for some reason, or actually, I think he's been streaming a while. So that's certainly going to affect that. But certainly, share it out with your communities and get more people in here. But we can watch it on playback later. All right, let's go ahead and get into it, guys. All right, well, we're starting right off here in Death Valley, 90 degrees in the shade, and the blacktop shimmers like water. This is where it starts. Hmm. So let's see. Who we want to have someone to go ahead and start off reading this a little bit, and I'm not sure if I think Booster should read it first, and we're going to have Denali actually be Buddy. How about that? Go ahead, Booster.
Okay.
I'll be
You
Buddy.
gotta do
Okay.
two things
So you
here,
want me
Booster.
to be the blokey truck driver?
Yeah, you're gonna be the Light and
All
the
right.
Loafers guy. Remember, he's he's
Yeah.
one of those guys, and you got to be the punky girl. You got to do both.
And I have to be the punk girl.
Yes, you do.
All right. So would you say your name was Gary, right? Like the movie? I don't think you know how lucky you are. I came along, hit you in the desert. That's suicide, man. Yeah. Well, the last guy kicked me out because I wouldn't Yeah, I know. Take my advice. You're making a real big mistake here. Ugh, you sound just like my mom. If I wanted this crap, I'd have stayed at home. Jeez. So she's not very nice.
Mm.
We established that so far.
Thank you.
Okay. Just remember this conversation when you're parading down Santa Monica Boulevard. That's all. You just think I'm a loser like everyone else. Well, you don't need good grades in Hollywood, and I'm gonna be somebody. I had it on my tarot cards read. I spent 3 years on the streets in LA. Man, and we're talking about Dante's goddamn Inferno here, okay? I'd probably still be hooked on smack or dying in an AIDS ward if it wasn't for my man Billy there. He gave me this cross, see? Solid silver. I've never taken it off since. Billy and the good Lord saved my life, man. So yeah, we got to remember this truck driver character and that cross, because that's coming back soon.
I'm sure. Yeah, it's kind of like obvious foreshadowing.
So before we move on, let's go to the back page, and I'll do a little bit of commentary about that for you guys to keep in mind.
Back page.
Well.
You want me to go back a page? Is that what you mean?
Yeah.
Oh.
Go back to the first page. So we're talking about death, and its prevalence. So the first image we see is a dead coyote, and crossing is the truck, and we start talking about 3 of the main characters in this story that we don't know. Already the fourth wall is breaking. You're Carrie like the movie, and we start seeing them get closer and closer. And the first image when we see the girl, is that soldier. What was it, Rodriguez from Aliens? Do you the really
Vasquez?
Vasquez.
Vasquez, yes. And they're talking about communication where he's trying to communicate, his intention, saying, hey, you shouldn't go over here because you're gonna die. And she's not listening. She's just saying, you're just telling me whatever you're doing. And then they talk about faith. She has faith in Tarot's cards. He has faith in the Lord with the
Or
silver cross.
Billy, I would say.
Or Billy. So he has Billy in the galore. So they're talking about what drives them is faith. Remember, the title of this issue is the Gospel of the Coyote, the Coyote's Gospel.
And there's never any direct implication that he is gay, but
Oh, he's absolutely gay. Yeah,
yeah. Well, but he never outright says it. But he talks about Billy a lot, and he mentions the AIDS ward, and of course we have that very gay photo.
Yeah,
Right.
That is an interesting point. We, in the '80s particularly, we didn't see a lot of that stuff in the comic books, and although it's done subtly, I think it's fine. This character is important, and it doesn't really matter, I guess. But yeah, it is worth mentioning that there is a gay character in this book. Yeah,
but it doesn't matter. It's not
no, it
point of the
doesn't matter
story.
at all.
Yeah. So let's continue.
All right, and now we get to hear Booster sing, and I'm waiting to be impressed.
All right, we're prepared to be dazzled, lads. I could have walked past the Stop and Shop, instead drove past the Stop and Shop with my radio on. I'm in love with the modern world. It will be all right. How was that? Was it beautiful?
Was that like a South Park character?
That was all me.
Okay. And of course, we have an image here for those of you that are listening. We have what looks like a werewolf that is sitting in the middle of the road. The sun is glaring. The girl goes, "Arr!" And look out! Something on the, and of course, the next scene we have. Go ahead, Booster.
Oh. Apparently, you're a bit quiet, Chester. So while I do this, how about you sort out your volumes? Stream, everyone on the chat saying you're a wee bit quiet.
All right. I will increase myself up to maximum and blow your eardrums out. How's that?
Sounds good to me. All right.
We went right over it. Oh, that was horrible. What was it? Was it an animal?
Forget it. Don't look back. Keep your eyes on the road and don't look back.
Advice for life, I guess.
Pain.
And then there we go. Pain.
So here's an interesting thing is that at this moment where he says keep your eye on the road and don't look back, and he's saying forget about it. This is the very moment that he shows the title of the company truck that he's doing, which is Ajax.
Which is definitely a reference to Acme.
Yes.
Oh, it is the beginning of a full-on Acme reference, yes.
But it's also, if you want to read a little bit into it, also it's commercialism running over and, for the name of progress, destroying nature as well.
And you notice they call it Ajax Trucking, right?
Yeah. Trucking along.
See, I just saw it as a thing for Acme because we're going to see later that this character that's based on Wile E. Coyote is going to use Ajax-based products to try and trap the other cartoon characters.
Yeah, it is Acme. It's an Acme reference. That's why I showed it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So, and then saying advice for life is pain. So, continue on.
I shall. And let's have Tank give us a wonderful voice for this next couple of scenes here. Go ahead, man.
The pain is gigantic. A newly activated nervous system is suddenly jammed with frantic signals. Like an overworked switchboard, the creature shudders, weeping. Its pelvic girdle fuses along hairline sutures to cradle rapidly healing organs. a splintered rib that saws back and forth in one long is withdrawn. The thoracic case locks seamlessly. The lung reinflates. Trembling, the creature rises. Overheated, cheated vultures wheel into the sunset. Behold the miracle of resurrection.
Oh, very good, very good. That's
Behold!
clap worthy. Behold, yes, yes.
And
Now,
here's go
yeah,
ahead.
go ahead, Denali.
I was gonna say it's what's interesting is since we know that this is Wile E. Coyote into taken out of the cartoony world into the more realistic cartoon world. The whole regeneration where he just instead of he just pulls them back together in a cartoony faction. This is a more scientific version of his regeneration. And he goes with the whole details of what's going on, these technical terms. At the end of it says, kind of going with the whole gospel and Jesus analog. In science, here's the miracle of resurrection. He has risen again.
Yeah, absolutely. That's what he's doing. Now, is he doing it subtly or is he taking a baseball bat to it? But just come over here to the chat real quick. Hello, Joshua. Hello, DeWolf. Of course, you're welcome to come in if you'd like. Paul Hassett, Chronos Chiron. Hello, hello. Yeah, a lot of people are on EVS. That's okay. We can watch and play back later. Doom is with us. He says, "Hey there," and Pixel Trader. He
Hey
says
there.
he's telling me my levels are a little bit low, but he's also saying the truck is a foreshadowing for the final page. And yes, you're right. With that mention we had up there, we will take a quick thing. Just give a shout out to Tug and Just Some Guy. They have had both been flagged, and Tug has been doxxed, and we have a video we're putting up, and everyone else is putting up videos too. Just a shout out to them, and keep your chins up, guys. You have a lot of support over here with us, and it's unfortunate that this nonsense happens, but it does. So just keep up what you're doing, guys.
Hey, while you're at it, show your support by heading on over to their Patreons and dropping $1 or $2 in the tip jar.
That's true. Good point.
Of course.
All right. Well, let's continue on with the Coyote Gospel. I have to say that is a clever name.
It is cool.
That was a year ago. Now we get into the home life. I definitely think Denali should be Buddy, and I think Booster should be the kid, and I think Tank
Yeah.
should be the mother, and I shall be the
All right.
TV.
This is good. This is a good setup.
All right.
That's a good setup.
All right.
Okay. So today, do you want to save this poor little blind boy? Jesus wants your money. Jesus needs your money. Hallelujah.
Dad, this is radical. I mean, like, what are we supposed to eat?
What? What do you mean what we're supposed to eat? I don't know. Tofu? Or something, I guess.
Tofu. Blech.
Oh, sorry.
Now this is Tank. You're the
Is
mother.
that Mama?
Yeah,
Buddy,
that's
you home?
Wow. See you later, Mom. Losers.
What's going on here?
Oh, hi, Ellen. How did your day go?
It went fine. Buddy, what are you doing?
I'm getting rid of all this meat and stuff. I think it's time we went vegetarian.
Do, huh? I don't suppose it occurred to you to talk this over with me? I mean, you have correction. Have you thought about what we're going to eat after you throw the groceries into the garbage?
Ellen, these are dead animals. Have you any ideas of the terrible conditions these animals lived in before they were dragged down to the slaughterhouse and turned into somebody's groceries?
That's not the point. The point is you didn't even talk to me about this, you know?
Yeah, well, we're talking about it now.
Buddy, put the food down.
Okay, there. Take the damn stuff. Just don't expect me home for dinner.
Very good. Interesting. Now, uh, before we move into the main body of the story, this is like one little scene we get here with his family, and this is something that Grant Morrison did throughout the run, was Buddy and his home life, right? But I have to say, we're going to talk about the art of this later and get opinions on that. But look what he's wearing. Look how he is dressed.
He does look extremely gay. I don't know what's with those short shorts. If I was you, Denali, I would have been like, I think it's time we went vegetarian.
Yes, I would have done the same thing. Yes, yeah.
He's looking absolutely flaming at the moment.
Yes. I'm getting rid of all
Well,
this meat and
it's
stuff.
George Michael style with Wham.
No, yeah, but still, it's funnier. I think it's time we went vegetarian. You know, because that's exactly what it looks like.
So let me see. Have you had any idea? Just
No.
don't expect.
Okay.
No.
Have you had any kind of idea
Definitely
of what terrible predictions?
But
I
the
definitely
point,
think this is comment worthy. The scene.
it is.
But yeah,
And you might.
It is.
The reason I say that is because this is definitely an example of a writer putting his personal politics into the story. But we're not getting like this insufferable mouthpiece character that we're supposed to be rooting for, right? Buddy is acting insufferable, and his family knows it, right?
yeah,
And we're not supposed to be sympathetic for Buddy's cause when he's becoming a vegetarian, like Grant Morrison made him a vegetarian just because he's a vegetarian, right? We're actually getting this idea that the way Buddy's behaving is insufferable, and this is unfair to do to his own family to make this kind of choice.
Oh, sure. And it's a running theme.
Right.
But
so instead of like getting the idea that the writer's lecturing the audience on becoming a vegetarian, it's just, it's just there and it's discussing either side.
True.
Right, and
but this is a
the thing-
foreshadowing to things that would come later in comic books, though, I think. And this was mentioned by several of us. It's absolutely almost like a peek into the window of the future SJW comics in a way.
Yeah,
Mhm.
Buddy is a proto SJW.
Yeah.
That we didn't recognize.
Grant Morrison
no.
could have been a full-blown SJW, but he actually has a respect for writing.
He does.
Right.
Yeah.
And
Welcome, Model 3.
okay, and talking about with his wife Ellen, he said the issue isn't that you're going vegetarian. The issue is that you're not talking and communicating this and having us agree about it. You're just making decision for us.
He's also making everyone else go vegetarian.
And he's acting like a child as well.
Exactly.
Yeah, look at him flail his bloody arms about. Look at that. What is that?
He's a kid. I mean, he slams down. Yeah. It's completely immature.
So and that's basically what's going on. It's like, so we have him in a effeminate dress, basically, with the really short shorts that were in style back then.
Excuse me, I lived during that time. Those were never in style. Well, amongst
Yes,
a certain group.
I'm sad to say that in New Zealand we call those stubbies, and they're very much in style.
See?
Oh, goodness gracious. Yeah, but no, I grew up in that time, dude. And I'm telling you what, if you dressed like that when I was a kid, someone would punch you in the head. But,
Wow.
I grew up in New England, East Coast, so maybe we were just tougher about things like that. But it's definitely a West Coast story.
Yeah.
But anyway, moving on. Go ahead. Denali.
Yeah. I shouldn't have stormed out like that. I don't know what's eating me. There's something in the air, tension, like a storm is coming or an earthquake. Let me see. The animal feel it too. Everything, everywhere is so quiet. It's like the world is holding its breath, huddling down, afraid of being seen.
I guess I'll read this. It had
Yeah.
all started to go wrong last year in the fall. 2 weeks after he saw the devil on the highway, he watched Billy go under the wheels of a truck. So it's the same guy who was driving the truck. He saw the devil, ran it over, and then he watched Billy go under the wheels of a truck. It's interesting. Uh, it had been an accident, just a stupid, pointless accident. Billy lived for a while, and then he died, brain damage, unrecognizable. The pitiless sun shines on Death Valley's breathless heat, scorching his lungs as he prepares the explosives. He spent 2 days out there. It's time to kill the devil. It wasn't just Billy's death or losing his job or the cancer that took his mother in March. In the end, it was the paper he'd picked up 4 days ago in LA. And of course, he's got his picture of Billy there, and of course, the girl, and it says, prostitute slain in drug raid. That was what really did it. Now, of course, as Nelly has been saying, there's a lot more death here. More death, lots of death. And,
I mean,
you know,
look at the sign when we first see it. It's a cross.
mhm.
That's the foreground saying this is important right now. We're talking about the fall, the devil, the cross, if you go from that direction.
Oh, absolutely. But once again, I say, is he making some subtle and cool statement, or is he just using a baseball bat?
It could be both, because if you don't know what's going on, we kind of expect it. So for us, it's like a baseball bat, but for the new person, this could be a subtle thing. So it's kind of like, where are you in life? Because if you don't know it, you don't know what you're looking for. This is a subtle thing. But if you know you're looking for, then this is like very heavy-handed
It is heavy-handed. That's what I mean
imagery.
by That's what I mean by
Yeah.
that. Hmm. Well, continue on. Of course, we have a picture here with a gun, and he's hunted down this werewolf-looking coyote character, which we've already kind of let any spoiler out of the bag. That would be it's actually Wile E. Coyote, of course, and he's sitting behind a rock, and he's getting ready to shoot him. Wile E. Coyote is just sitting on the edge of a cliff. He says, "Sweet Jesus, don't let me miss." Everything stops, and then his hands begin to tremble. Why won't they stop? Why won't they stop shaking? Of course, this weird, wily-eyed coyote looks and sees him. He takes a shot, and then this next little thing, Booster. Why don't you go ahead and explain this next bit of dialogue? I think you might enjoy the gore of it.
And the you want me to do the narration there? All right.
Yeah, yes, please.
The first bullet, a semi-jacketed hollow point, shatters the devil's collarbone and smashes its shoulder blade like a china plate. Briefly, its feet peddle empty air, and then it goes down. An outcrop breaks its spine. A second impact crushes its skull, unhinges its jaws, snaps both legs, and it hits bottom line of a quadriplegic.
Lovely.
So, of course, what we see with this cliff and the coyote falling down is what would happen to a cartoon character quite often back in the day.
Absolutely.
Yeah? They would go running off and they'd fall down a cliff. There'd be like a little smoke light. We even have a little cloud there,
Exactly. Yeah,
and I could even hear like a little poof sound effect myself. But
yes, you can.
instead of like it just being a silly, funny thing, we're getting a absolutely graphic detail of what happened to this Wile E. Coyote character as he hit the ground.
Yep. It's still alive. He knows it's still alive. Ruptured optic nerves reconnecting, and the world resolves itself out of gray fog. There are shadows on the ground, getting bigger. And of course, we have the whole boulder scene where it's just like out of the cartoon.
Yep.
Something in
Just
the air,
like in the cartoon.
splat.
Mhm.
The guy is continuing down. We don't have to read all this dialogue. We'll have to skip a couple of pages here anyway. And we see Animal Man, and he's talking about his magic bullet. Which, I mean, if he has a magic bullet, why didn't he use it the first time? And of course, the coyote stands up. He's completely fine and whole.
I do want to talk about that little expression.
Oh, this one right here. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the art's pretty good for the most part, but that looks like something out of Thunderbirds. I can't explain what it is. That expression bothers me.
Yeah, no, we're going to talk about the art as well later,
Yeah.
but I see what you're saying. Um,
Hmm.
well, anyway, I'm just going to kind of go through this real quick here.
And
He,
here's a
yeah, go
and
ahead,
here's
man.
an interesting thing. You have Buddy coming in with wings spread. We know he's flying, but he also looks like kind of like a descending angel heading to the cross. You have the
Yeah, no,
crossroads with the
yeah,
cross
it's
there.
extremely heavy-handed and blunt. Yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
it's a cross. Oh, he looks like an angel. Oh, do you get it? Get it? Wink, wink. Get it? Get it?
Yeah.
That's
Get
how
it.
I see it. Well, since we're here at this moment, let's take a minute to actually talk a little bit about, Buddy and his powers. Now, he's called Animal Man because he can take on the powers and aspects of animals within his vicinity for about, what, a half hour or so? 40 minutes or something like that.
Hmm.
It's a limited
Throughout
time.
this run, he got a lot more powerful in it.
He did. He
And
did. He
we
leveled
can
them up.
see that eagle flying as well, right? That's why he's flying. He has to be within a certain vicinity of an animal, and he can pick one attribute at a time.
That's right. And that's on the
Hmm.
previous scene. They show it here, the eagle up above. It's actually not unimportant, and it's important because he's taking it from his surrounding. But that's what he does. That's his power. Those are his abilities. Now, later on in the New 52, when they had him be the red, as whereas Swamp Thing is the green, they elaborated on him a lot. They went. He actually started having animalistic changes to his body and stuff like that, which we don't see in here. He just takes on their ability. He doesn't change actually. But later on, they did do some things with Animal Men as well. We could talk about that later. But I just want to get through this to get to the I think the coolest part. He says, "No, wait." No, listen, there's a bomb and it explodes, and of course the guy basically barely survives, and of course Wile E. Coyote stands up because he's indestructible, and the guy and we don't see exactly what's going to happen to the guy, but then it looks like the coyote just ran off because we have Buddy here landing near the Jeep and wondering, what's this? An empty Jeep in the desert. And of course, the coyote comes up and he hands Buddy a piece of paper. And then we get into a very interesting thing. And it says, begin the gospel according to Crafty. Now,
Hmm.
this next part I think is very interesting. So, Tank, why don't you go ahead and read some of this, man?
All right. No one in those days could remember a time when the world was free from strife, a time when beast was not sent against beast in endless round of violence and cruelty. With bodies that renewed themselves instantly, flowing each wound, no one thought to challenge the futile brutality of existence. Crafty.
Now, for those of you who are listening, what we have here is basically a Looney Tunes type of cartoon write up. We have it's just out of the cartoon where they, it's kind of like Roger Rabbit, right? Where the cartoon characters are indestructible and they're always being violent to each other in the comedic way. And this is the world that Crafty lives in. That's what they're suggesting to us. Crafty is from this world, not our world. He's from this world. It's an important point that they're trying to make. And of course, we see Ajax again referencing Acme. And then they don't do the Roadrunner because they probably get sued. So, which I don't know why. It's this DC Comics, but whatever. It's not the Roadrunner, but it's obviously supposed to be the Roadrunner. He gets twisted up. He gets hit by the cannon. Typical Roadrunner and Wile E. Coyote cartoon. Typical things. And but then we get some dialogue, and it gets into some interesting ideas. Go ahead and continue, Tank.
So it was that on a day like every other since the first day, Crafty wept at last and said no more. He took himself into the desert and rose up and went into the presence of God. And God spoke unto Crafty, saying, You must be punished for this rebellion against my will. Yes, I am a good God, and my judgment will be tempered with mercy.
Okay, Denali, I know you want to make a comment now, so go ahead.
Well, it continues with the heavy heaviness of what you were saying, battering us. Hey, is this Jesus or is this Lucifer kind of deal? Because he's rebelling against God. He's saying, I don't want any more suffering. I want to say no more. And God is basically a self-insert of the artist and writer
Yeah.
here. And you see the pen is a trail of blood that's falling down into the world. And we already think about it. And if you think about the cover, you see the same hand already painting Buddy. So is this a god of both worlds? Or is this just a god of this world? You know. But we're going with the cartoony version with the whole cartoony clouds in the heavens and all that stuff.
Sure. And of course, they are referencing here in the next panel. We'll let's move on, and we'll see exactly what they're suggesting here. Continue, Tank.
Much afraid, Crafty spoke, saying, I will bear any punishment that will bring peace to the world. Then you must spend eternity in hell above, said God. While you live and bear the suffering of the world, I will make peace amongst the beasts. That is my judgment. So God sent Crafty forth from the heaven and earth, dark hell of the second reality. And Crafty was given new flesh and new blood.
Okay. Now, what they're doing here is they're saying that Crafty is part of the Looney Tunes world, and it's a real world. And they keep mentioning above. He's going to send, for his punishment, he's going to send Crafty into the above world, which is our world. And in
No,
doing
no, no,
so,
no.
for his punishment, uh,
Yeah.
he will, but as a reward for his punishment, there will be peace in this world, in with the cartoon characters, where all their violence and constantly hurting each other. There will be peace, but he will have to bear the suffering by going into the upper world, the hell that is our world. So, if that's not heavy-handed, I don't know what to tell you.
It almost
Here's
seems like it's a subtle nod to Flatland as well, going from 2 dimensions to 3 dimensions.
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah. Go ahead,
right.
Janelli.
I was going to say, well, this is what's kind of funny. He first says, while you live and bear the suffering of the world, I will make peace among the beasts. That's my judgment.
Hmm.
But he's not a beast. He's a cartoon. So he's just making mockery out of him because, as I said, I will make peace among the cartoons of the world. He doesn't. So it's basically is a moot point. The second thing is saying he's going into the second reality above us. So the further we go away from the cartoon world, the closer we get to our reality. It is our each reality is the hell for the other reality. So the second reality is the realistic, you know, superheroes, the current reality where Buddy is, um, of hell for the Looney Tunes cartoons. And what would be hell based on the logic of this story? Our reality would be hell for them because then they would actually die. They would not come back. They are not immortal. The suffering means nothing in this world because once you die, um, in this world, in this reality, that's it, and suffering will continue on. So you see the progression, kind of like uh, Dante Inferno. Instead of going downward into hell, he's going upward into hell.
Yeah, it's an interesting little twist he's got, and I get it, and it's cute with the referencing Wile E. Coyote and all the violence in those cartoons, and I understand all the referencing and stuff. Uh, now, excuse me, I have to jump a couple of pages. We can't put it all out. We'll get a copyright strike. So, what happens in the few pages that I am skipping is of course, you saw there in the last panel that Crafty arrives in our world, and that's the exact moment he gets hit by the truck. Was the exact moment that he was sent up. So this benevolent God literally put him in the path of a truck for his first experience. Um,
Yeah.
and and then there's a cute little comment because Buddy, I keep wanting to say Booster, but Buddy is sitting there, and they show us the piece of paper that Crafty gave us, and the story that we've been reading, that we've been enjoying, is Crafty's tale. He's telling what happened to him. But not Booster, sorry, Animal Man Buddy, he looks at it and it's this gibberish writing, and he's like, "I'm sorry, I can't read this."
Hmm.
So it's a funny little comment. And then, of course, we see uh, our guy from the beginning, which I don't even know if he has a name, just Truck Guy.
No, we
Uh,
just call him the trucker guy.
yeah, the trucker guy. And he's still alive. He comes up. He's got his magical bullet, which I still don't know why he didn't use the magical bullet first with the first shot. But hey, he comes up. He shoots the our Wile E. Coyote here, and he's in bad shape. But he gets that shot up, and of course Buddy's sitting right next to him, and then we can rejoin here, and he says, "Strange, pain, no
No
pain."
pain. Hmm?
Yes, he says, "Strange, no pain." Something he's used to. "Oh, Billy, I did it. I saved the world," and then he dies. And then we have the coyote here, who's crying with tears, and Buddy's looking over him, and we have his tears are making a pool next to him, and then of course the artist comes in and paints it as blood. And that's at the end, folks, or that's all, folks, is what he probably wanted to write, but he couldn't. So this is an interesting Animal Man comic because it literally has nothing at all to do with Animal Man at all.
Yeah.
But
He's just
anyway.
more of a casual observer that just arrives at the end of all of this.
hmm Exactly. He doesn't
Yeah.
even, in truth, Buddy doesn't even know what just happened, nor will he ever know.
But it certainly sets up the themes for what would happen in later Animal Man stories, for where Animal Man is also tormented in several issues for the amusement of the readers. That's what we're getting a reference to in this story and in later issues of Animal Man. These characters exist in worlds, but they're being constantly tormented just for the amusement of a reader.
No, absolutely.
Pretty much.
And
And
and that's the end of the comic book. But of
Yeah.
course, there's more cross references and stuff like that. But we're going to talk more about Animal Man as far as other things like Wusu was just starting to do. But just to finish up the book, Denali, what do you have to say about the last part of that book that we kind of had to skip through because rules?
all right, no problem. The silver bullets is actually the cross melted down.
Yeah, it is. Yeah.
And he shoots him. So it's fate against fate. Who's the right? Well-intentioned people hurt each other. And by the end of the panel, you have from the beginning of the first cover, whereas Buddy in the Jesus pose, it's now the Coyote supplanting Buddy as the main character of this issue, and doing the same thing that the artist, which is finishing up the painting for the amusement of us. And it's basically the same artist doing it. So are we following the whims of a cruel God? Is this orchestrated by the God to suffer for the amusement of some other audience, unbeknownst to us? And that's where we kind of leave it at. It's basically where I'm asking, it's like, what is religions to you? What is cruelty to you? What is animal rights to you? These heavy-handed themes, and he leaves us at a crossroad, to choose, what we decide to do. kind of deal.
Yeah. Any opinions on that, Tank?
Yeah, it's another Grant Morrison piece. It's it's a decent story. That's an entertaining read at least once, but it's full of so much existential nonsense that it kind of muddies it a little bit at times. So you can always see how sober Grant was when he was writing it, as to how much of this extra, how crazily he goes into the imagery and stuff like that, as opposed to delivering a quality story that focuses on the character in question.
Yeah. No, I agree with that statement completely. But I do not think that everyone has the same opinion as I do. And we do have Pixel Trader says Coyote Christ pose. Yes, absolutely. Um, and as you can see, this is absolutely a Roadrunner cartoon with Wile E. Coyote, where Wile E. just gets fed up and he keeps losing. All he does is lose to the Roadrunner, so he just goes to God and complains about it. And God punishes him for his complaint and says, "Well, I'm going to send you to someplace far worse than here. But as a little added bonus, know that whilst you are suffering, there will be peace here, and I will make sure of that." That's the whole gist of the story. Now, somewhere along the line, he decided to introduce the fact that meat is bad. Meat is bad, but it's a very minor point in the story. In truth, all he's really doing is, I think, in his mind, literally, he was sitting down, remembered that Roadrunner cartoon he saw, and he says, "What if it was real?" And I think that's the
Mhm.
whole story. I think that's exactly what it came from. I think he tried to add some heavy-handed religious concepts in there, but I don't think he did it well. I know that Grant Morrison is like a legend and he's loved by so many people, and I have enjoyed some of his comic books, but this one in particular, I don't think is very impressive to me. It's very heavy-handed and kind of silly, but then again, maybe that's exactly what he wanted it to be.
And that's the thing about art. It's basically a subjective point of view. It's up to the reader to decide what they think, if it's overrated, or you know or like, is it garbage? Is this a garbage writing, or is this a masterpiece? That's the part of subjective art, and a lot of people seems to agree that this is a heavy existential crisis discussion that has multiple meaning of layers. We don't really know the intention. It's up to the reader to make that determination. Joshua Hughes says, "Wow, who knew Looney Tune basically had to go to hell and back just to get Michael Jordan shorts?" Yeah.
That's funny. I saw that as well. Thank you for reading that, Denali.
Mhm.
Now, Booster, why don't you give us your
Mhm.
overall opinion of this? And we're going to talk about the art here in a second, but give us your overall opinion of this particular book.
Well, I do actually love this story. Thank you, Chester. Uh, and I don't know. I guess it was like one of my first introductions to a story that had multiple layers of fourth wall break-in, and I just love the idea of this character that was just being tormented for someone else's entertainment. We got a real look into that, and I know Animal Man was more of a supporting character. He was barely even a supporting character. He just kind of showed up at the end to see what was going on. But it's definitely indicative of what's going to be happening later on in the story to Animal Man. We get something of a foreshadowing to all the punishment Animal Man's going to go through just to satisfy an audience. So I kind of like this kind of stuff. That's just me, though.
Well, actually, to be fair, I like a lot of the other Grant Morrison Animal Man stuff. It just this one in particular, I don't hate it. I just think it's I get it. It's like he had this idea of a Roadrunner cartoon in his head, and he said, "Well, what if it was real?"
Hmm.
I think that's what happened. But
Hmm.
I don't
Yeah,
mind
probably.
his run. I like the run actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Knock knock.
Hey, we have a DeWolf. And
Oh, someone's
as
late.
DeWolf comes in, Pixel Trader has a comment. He says, "I think he just called religion a comic or slash cartoon." Yeah, I think that's exactly what he did. Yeah.
Hmm. I didn't actually get that.
Oh yeah, that's exactly
Okay.
what he was doing. Yeah.
It's
Uh,
also a
Oh,
little
oh.
reinforcement of sorry.
Um, but Grant Morrison does a lot of knocking on religion throughout a lot of his books, and it's often subtle. It's not always so harsh in your face, but I think that there's definitely some of that. He's certainly one of those angsty activist type. And like I said, he's a part of the animal rights liberation army support group, as he says. And
Hmm.
he's an activist. That's what he is.
I mean,
So of
if he
course he's going to
was
call it out.
introduced into comics into this comic book environment, I think Grant Morrison would be a lot more insufferable. That's for sure.
Oh wow, dude.
And imagine if he was on Twitter with this kind of nonsense. But other than that, though, I think he has a respect for comic book writing, and I think he can write a good story, unlike half of these
Oh yeah.
comic book hacks that we get today.
Oh no, he's very skilled. You're right. Yeah. So
Yeah,
And
DeWolf,
I think I'm sorry.
yeah, no, DeWolf, you've been watching. Go ahead and give us your opinion on this particular
Yeah.
comment and Animal and Man in general.
I couldn't help it. Yeah, I was just gonna put some things in the chat and keep doing with what I was doing. I got a project going on and trying to get it done by tomorrow.
Mhm.
And then no, I can't. This Animal Man #5 you're talking about, and all of the symbolisms and things that are thrown out about religion and that symbolize various religious concepts. I can't stand it. I've got to come in. I come from a line where I study history and study religion and the like, and so I was listening, and then I keep doing what I'm doing, and then I have to look up because I hear Denali speaking about, hey, here's the symbolism of a savior right on the cover, right off the bat, top of the show. It shows him out there like this, and then we have the cross coming here, and death as a concept, and I keep getting more and more involved while I'm trying to do something else, and I thought, no, I can't. I have to come on and speak about this. This is pretty. You guys, were talking about him and his SJW type stuff, and maybe I throw that out there way too casually. Just the fact that he has strong opinions and he's willing to put them out and willing to put them in the art. And we've seen this before where these artists in comic books, they put in messages and they're deep people. They're creative people. And so they oftentimes have more than just, hey, I want to tell a little story. There's often a bigger story, a deeper story. And here, I can't believe one thing he did was he didn't just take a story and say, here's a creation concept. Here's religion, and I'm going to bash on religion. He took something that you'd think would be a serious concept, and then he threw it into the silly, right? He went with the cartoons. And this character you keep calling the Wile E. Coyote character, I think you kind of alluded to too much too quickly. I think calling him a werewolf would have been better, because that's what he looks like. He looks like a werewolf for those who weren't able to see the pictures.
They also mentioned that it was a silver bullet.
Yeah, no, true.
Right.
Mm.
He's muscular though. He's not just wily and small, and he does look more coyote. I'll give the artwork a little bit there. He's not big, brawny, and wolf-like. He does actually have some of those thinner concepts of when you see coyotes and what they look like, and but he still has muscles. You see there's muscles in his legs. He's drawn with different fangs, and he looks menacing in some of those pictures. And yet there is the like Booster was talking about him going over the edge and stuff, and the silly comes into play, and then he shows the script, and all of a sudden Warner Brothers comes into play, but you see a creation concept. You said like almost as if you have Narnia, right? Because Narnia is the concept of what happens when religion enters into the fantasy realm, and it was written in that sense. What would Jesus look like if it was in this realm. And of course, with talking animals, well, he'd be a talking lion, the Lion of Judah. And yet here, on the other hand, we have what happens if there's religion in four-color, Looney Tune land, and where did it come from? What's the cosmology? I learned that word recently.
Yes.
In great depth from Chester. What's the cosmology and the grand concepts of where these beings come from and for what reason, and do they even live, and is there a purpose to their lives? And what happened was they took the craftsman, which also, once again, Jesus was a carpenter. His father was a carpenter. He learned to craft. The Son of God also was involved in creation. So this craftsman of not just worlds but other things. And so I guess Wile E. Coyote is the cartoon son of the cartoon god, right? It's just it all went together, and amazingly by the end of this, and here I am going, what is going on, and why are we going into this concept? In all of this, by the end of it, it works out, and you believe it. You believe it's possible that there's a Looney Tune dimension in the multiverse. It happened here. He came. There's a concept about Jesus, whether or not he went to purgatory or hell. But either way, he was able to free the souls that were there, right? And so, as it says here, he has to go up to this other realm and have this sacrifice in order to free everything for all the other cartoon entities. Just bizarre that you could believe that could exist in the Marvel universe. And then Animal Man's going to move on and do other great things. And I think it's interesting where Booster gives us this long running concept that this is going to stick with Animal Man, and it's in number 5.
Yeah,
there's a lot of other comics that do this. Quasar, for instance, he encounters certain things and entities within 2, 3, and 4, and they become long running concepts throughout the rest in the backdrop. And it's just the writing that we see in this era really is amazing. They call the Golden Age, the early age, and this the Silver or Bronze Age. But I think that because of the depth that they decided to go to with comics, it's actually more rich, even though it may not be considered the Golden Age. A lot of the stories are more rich in where they go instead of just the original creation. Bash some heads in. Good wins the day.
No, and
thank you, DeWolf. I'm glad someone appreciated it.
Well, the overall run is good, Booster. I do like the overall run as a package. But I just this.
Oh, you can pick the next story, Chester, and I can crap all over it.
Please do. Go right ahead. I do have some comments here from the chat I want to get to, though. Draken says, I can't help but point out that the art is only flatted, not colored. Interesting. Joshua Hughes, our favorite troll, says, wow, who knew the Looney Tunes basically had to go to hell and back just to get my... Oh, you already read that. Sorry. That was funny, though. Space Jam. But let's come down here. Sierra Whiskey says, Mr. Busby, how's your basement smelling today? Well, sir, I keep my basement very clean, thank you very much. So it smells perfectly of perfumed and flowers because I have a wife that does things like that. Welcome.
Lucky.
Thank you very much. And as Pixel says, we need more trash pandas. Go ahead, guys.
Well, you remember last week? Last week there was a problem. It wasn't picked up as well because Booster left his dirty socks around.
True.
Yeah.
That's true. That is true.
Yeah, sorry,
we
bro.
got on into that.
Yeah, my wife wasn't very happy, by the way, Booster. Thank you.
My bad.
It is your bad.
I'll
Now, Draken has a point here that Booster will not like, but I'm going to read it anyway. He says, stories that you think are deep are often only given an illusion of deepness by using some tertiary source as a reference, and then let the audience draw out their own meaning and conclusion. Yeah, true. That's very, very true.
yeah, that is true. I can't deny that.
But also, but also that's deep in and of itself. The ability to be able to do that and the audience to get it and take their minds that direction is an artwork and a genius.
And
I find a lot
actually,
of things I enjoy tend to be that way. Like my favorite movie is The Fountain, and you can interpret that so many different ways. And I think Darren Aronofsky wrote that film that way on purpose.
that's a horrible movie.
You can piss off.
No, I'm just kidding, dude. I actually like that movie. And actually, to make the point clear, as Morrison goes on with this run, and as he does reference back, as Booster had said, he does create depth to his whole run. I'm suggesting you read the whole run. Actually, it's just this one in particular. I think it's so popular. You know, the Coyote Gospel is something that's often mentioned when you say Grant Morrison. People say Coyote Gospel. It's so linked to him, even though I think he's done so many greater things later. But I just never. This isn't my favorite book by him. Although I do like the overall run, and I like a lot of the stuff he did later, much more than this.
Yeah, fair enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Sierra Whiskey does say that my stories aren't deep. I've got a raccoon, a skunk, and a possum smashing robots and pestering humans. Yes, Sierra Whiskey has a story and place, and he only needs an artist, and I'm sure he's going to get one, and we're going to have some really cool Gamma World raccoon action, I think. Great. Hello, Primarch Sanguineous. So welcome to the show, man. All right, guys. Well, the last little thing I want to do about that comic in particular, unless anyone has any other comments on it, please go ahead. I want to talk about the art.
I do.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, on a final note, with all that layering of the hells and everything like that, if you look back at the cover, it's kind of like a nod to R. Crumb and his famous saying of "comics are hell." It's usually associated with a picture of him, buried in paperwork with his hair falling out and him going crazy.
That's a good point.
And of course, you got to keep in mind too, Grant Morrison takes heavily from people like Aleister Crowley and and Dick, who did all the writing that, of course, became things like Blade Runner and such. An incredible sci-fi writer. If you haven't read him, you should. Grant Morrison pulls heavily from these guys, and when he's writing stuff. So, go ahead.
So the artwork.
No. The artwork. Yeah. So, what do you guys think of the artwork? What's your overall impression? Now, in all honesty, in the 80s, this is not something that's abnormal. It's pretty normal fare for what you get in the 80s, and early 90s. But what do you guys think of the artwork in the book?
I think the artwork, for the most part, is solid, but this particular artist I found is very bad at drawing facial expressions. He was definitely trying, because facial expressions were rare, like that were quite rare back then, right?
Yeah.
And I think Kevin Maguire did what this guy was trying to do a lot better. Was it Kevin Maguire? Yes, from JLI rather.
Yeah, that was a good run, man.
Yeah.
What do you think, Denelli, about this art, man?
I think there was moments of it that shine, such as the cartoon world, and also the part where the trucker man is seeing the regeneration of the coyote werewolf, looking like
the coyote getting shot and falling off the cliff looked incredible.
Yeah, so there's a lot of movement and action that was really good, overall. But it's in the style of the 80s, so you have that 80s style to it. So it's a little bit above and a little bit below in certain aspects. So it's generally good.
Okay, that's interesting. What do you think, Tank?
I loved the coyote, and I love the cartoony stuff. That was good. The coyote was fantastic. Like the musculature to the expressions to the movement and all that stuff. That I could almost feel like that was the artist's favorite part of the comic. The domestic scene was real stiff. It felt like I was watching community theater, like I was reading it was bad. It was really bad. Not the art quality itself, just like the form of the bodies were stiff they were really stiff. Like this is one of those artists that practices drawing poses as opposed to practices drawing life. So, but other than that, I mean, it was it was decent. It was a good read. I mean, the art did not detract from the story. The Coyote was just phenomenal. I loved it. That one's A plus.
Yeah. DeWolf, any opinion on the art, dude?
I just got to back up Tank on all that. Yeah. But one thing, the art in the cartoon land was nice and bubbly. You know, it definitely that's a terrible way to put it. It definitely gave you the sense that it was the good old Warner Brothers. You are no longer still in the comic book. It's a different world and different styling. So that part worked. Otherwise, yeah, Tank was spot on.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. The Coyote was done well. The cartoon part was cute and nice, a little addition. I think when Animal Man or Buddy was in his costume, his superhero costume, I think it looked good. But everything
Not
else to
his little
deal with,
shorts.
yes or no, that's simply a choice, I guess. Um, but as far as the humans in it in general, it's not very good. And that domestic scene that you talk about in the house, it was really not good. I
Hmm.
think you saying it's stiff is being kind. I think it was bad. It was the faces were bad. It was just not good. So it's weird for me that you have a book that has such an up and down with art. I mean, there's certain scenes that are great. The Coyote done really well, but then you have other things that are just bad. It's really it's conflicting on me. But speaking of art, though, let me go ahead and show you some other art from Animal Man, and I'll go over here and share this with you guys as well. And My point would be that it gets better. Because here we see we have some of the later stuff, and this is dealing with Animal Man Red, and this is
Hmm.
New 52 stuff. And as you can see, let me go ahead and add more space to
Yeah, that
this.
went for way more of a horror angle, that series.
It did, but there's some
Hmm.
beautiful art in here, right? I mean,
Yeah,
with
it's
the
incredible
red
looking.
aspect now. Booster Wells, I'm showing some of these art. Why don't you tell everyone a little bit about what they did in New 52 with Animal Man and the red in general, please?
Oh, I haven't actually read it, but I do know of it. I know it's written by Jeff Lemire and our favorite Canadian. And he definitely tried to invoke the madness of Grant Morrison, but he went with far more of a horror angle. And we know that they introduced something called the red in this series, which was quite like the Swamp Thing's the green to match
Yes,
that,
right.
right? Which is, I believe, the force of all the animals.
Yep.
Yep. So we got a bit of a change up with uh, old Buddy. Wasn't it Buddy Baker's shtick? Yeah, we got a big shake up around here.
Yeah, we did.
Th-
Uh,
This looks like one of the new 52 series that was actually worth a read.
it was good. I loved it,
Hmm.
actually. I enjoyed it. Denali, did you read the Animal Man with the red story?
No, I think it's around that time that I kind of stopped reading comic books. The New 52 line, I didn't read any of those comics.
Well, the red storyline is like Boucher said, whereas Animal Man basically gets into representing the red as the green Swamp Thing represents the green. Yeah, I understand it's DC. DC's never been very good with naming things. Marvel's much better at that. I get it, but
Hmm.
that's true. It's very graphic. It's very in depth. It's horrific in many ways. As you can see, we're showing you the art is quite good. It's a style, for sure, but it's really, really good. I love that run quite a bit, and that was it was a lot of fun. Did you read any of that, DeWolf or Tank?
No, I wasn't a huge fan of the new 52. I picked up a few trades for like Aquaman and Wonder Woman.
Hmm.
They were I like what they did with the characters as far as like the power setup. and whatnot, but honestly, it was flat.
I think there was quite a few little gems in the New 52, so I think it's a shame when people disregard it entirely. Like Earth 2,
Yeah,
of course, Scott Snyder's Batman,
Yeah.
and Demon Knights were really great series, and I really hope people give those a try.
Well, I
agreed,
actually like
agreed.
the Action Men, not Action Men, excuse me, Action Comics.
Okay.
A lot of people seem not to like it, but I kind of like the young Clark Kent just starting out in the city. I enjoyed
Hmm.
the New 52 Action Comics, but it seems that I'm in the minority. So it was so well drawn as well. But I don't know. New 52 gets a lot of hate. I don't know if it's fair. This picture you see right here, matter of fact, is the trade paperback cover that they used. And I like this art quite a bit. And one thing I have to say,
That's
uh,
great.
yeah, it is. And even though, there's some mixed opinions about the art in this particular book, issue number 5, um, the covers throughout the Animal Man are always great. I don't know why,
Hmm.
but they're always great covers with Animal Man. There's got to be some psychology to that or something, but it's weird because just some of the best covers I've ever seen out of DC comes out of Animal Man,
W-
actually.
Was some of them Dave Gibbons, or
I'm not sure.
I gotta look that up before I make big statements like that. But
Yeah, but no, they're just some really really good covers out of Animal Man. I don't know what it is, but I do love them. Well, anyway, well, look, guys, that's Animal Man, and it's a comic that I don't know how popular it is. I don't think a lot of people read it, not as much as maybe should, especially with the Grant Morrison stuff. Let me just go back and switch back over here to you guys, and we can have a closing talk about everything. And especially the Grant Morrison stuff. He The overall run I think is really good actually, and I do suggest you go read that. I like the New 52 as well. I think Booster's right. There are some gems there.
Doug Hazelwood.
Doug Hazelwood.
Doug Hazelwood did the Animal Man covers.
Yeah, really great stuff, man. Really great stuff. But anyway, so I guess at this point, what we want to do is if you have any other comments or points you guys want to make about it, go right ahead and do that now. But give us your opinion. Is Animal Man overrated or underrated? And we just go right straight down the line here in the Hangouts. So we'll just start with Booster, I guess.
Do you mean this particular issue, or just Animal
No,
Man in
Animal Man
general?
in general. Animal Man in general, yeah.
Oh, I think he's. Oh, I'd say he's found his niche where he needs to be. You know, he's celebrated by people that kind of love this postmodernist crap, like I do.
Hmm.
This kind of deconstructionism. Yeah, I love this pretentious crap. What can I say? So, I think it fills a niche for people like me.
Excellent.
So, yeah.
Go ahead, Duel.
Uh, yeah. I'll give him an interesting power concept. There's a lot of characters that borrow from animals. They change into animals. They are an animal. And here's something that, like you explained, that he borrows one power from an animal that is nearby.
Yeah, it's
And
cool.
in here in the beginning, he doesn't even have any attributes from the animal. It's just like, well, you're a bird flying around, so well, I can somehow magically fly.
Yeah, yeah.
It's a little bit of a reach, I guess, just out of nowhere to be able to do something like that. But at the same time, you know what? Here's the rules. The rules are, boom, I can just adopt one thing that you're doing and do it as well. So, that's kind of pretty neat. And then you throw in all the rest of the stuff that's going on with him and stuff that happens with the storyline. This one in particular, I'm gonna say that I enjoyed this comic. I enjoyed where it went. I could see where there's more that can go on. And as far as being introduced to a character and then being asked whether he's over or underrated, I think in some ways that he's possibly underrated.
Cool. And just to let you know, the power thing in the New 52, when they're talking about the red and stuff, they explain it much clearer. They give a much better understanding of him. So, Denali, we have a just where he's supposed to be. We have an underrated, and now we're coming to
Yeah.
Denali.
yeah, it's just where it's supposed to be. I mean, it's when you're dealing with Grant Morrison, it's up to you, the reader, to decide what is good or not. For me, I think I've seen this so many times and people praise it a lot, but when you get down to it, about, you know, the story, and this is a deconstructive story, and the main character was barely in there. You could have cut out all of his parts and just told the story, and it wouldn't have changed anything in there. Um, so for me, it was okay. It wasn't overrated. It wasn't underrated. It was just where it needs to be. Especially because if we take account of this being a setup issue for things to come, it's that's where it comes in.
Cool. Awesome. How about you, Tank? What do you think about what you've heard here today about Animal Man?
Well, Animal Man, I always loved the original character design. The jacket with the superhero suit really broke up the boring geometry of a human body. But as far as like the writing and whatnot goes, he's a D tier as far as like powers go, superhero with B tier writing. So it's a C. It's like, pick up an issue, check it out, then that's gonna be good. Like Booster said, it's real. Sort of, he's into that stuff, that really brainy stuff. So if you like to,
Huge IQ, lads.
that's right,
Huge IQ.
flexing,
Huge. Yes.
huge,
Huge.
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 It's gotta be huge. Anyway.
Yeah, no. If you want, like, an intellectual read that's more than just a funny book, then no, Animal Man is your that's your cup of tea.
So would you say overrated, underrated?
It's right where it needs to be. I think he's underexposed. I think that he could reach a better market if people understood that it was a comic for intellectual types.
Yeah. Okay. So we have 3 people at just where he needs to be, and one that it's underrated. And my view might actually surprise Booster, but I think Animal Man is horribly underrated. I think
Ooh.
Animal Man should be way, way higher up and more respected than it is. Not only for the overall the Grant Morrison, but also the New 52 run where they added that stuff. And I understand the weird awkwardness of the red, the green. I get it, the gray, whatever. But the overall storytelling is really good in Animal Man. There's some interesting stories, and it is looking at things from a more uh, internal point of view. It's not just Superman fighting for truth, justice, and American way as he should, and it's great. This is looking at a more the human side of things and the dirty side of things, the messy stuff that happens in life. So I would say Animal Man is incredibly overrated, and you should go read it. That's my
Overrated.
opinion. I mean, underrated. Underrated. Sorry, underrated. You should go read it. Absolutely.
Mhm.
I've always felt this about Animal Man. He doesn't get the justice he deserves. Nevertheless, thank you guys very much for joining us. We're enjoying this format of taking a comic and looking at one specific comic in the overall run of a character, and talking about it and breaking it down and analyzing and all that kind of stuff. What we do want is for you guys to leave us some comments down below and tell us, do you like this format? Is this something you want to see more of? Do you have suggestions, ideas, things you'd like us to do for Bugbear's Basement? One of the things we want to do here, that to make it quite different from Fanspeak, is we want this to just be completely talking about fun nerd stuff, in particularly comic books, but other stuff as well. And none of the drama or the news or any of the other stuff that can go on that we will cover on Fanspeak, or even
Which is always fun.
necessarily. Yeah, that's fun too, and or even the Indiegogo stuff. We want this place to just be pure nerd fun. and we want some suggestions from you guys. Are you liking this? Do you have different ideas? Just talk to us. Tell us what you think, and we will take those into account, and we'll try to adjust and make it better and better and better. That's our goal. So let's just go ahead across the board and let everyone uh, say where you can reach them and get a hold of them, or closing comments or whatever they'd like. So go ahead. We'll just do the same thing. Go ahead, Booster.
Well, you can find me on the Chester Busby channel with Fanspeak every week, and sometimes I wake up early enough to help cover the news.
Sometimes.
But I also have a Twitter at King Booster Boy, boy spelled B-O-I, obviously, which I hardly ever use. And what's his name? Durkin fights me.
Okay, I think he wants you to pronounce it Draken, but good enough.
Draken
Yeah,
fights me.
Mispronouncing his name would certainly start a fight. So good, awesome. All right, man. Thanks, Booster. DeWolf.
Yeah, really for the best things, comics and nerddom, this is the place to reach me. Until future notice, I may go ahead and start some of my own channel work, especially when it comes to, all things Quasar.
True. And I know you don't want to talk about any of the things, but and we won't. But you have something very, very cool that you've been talking about. So we'll see more of that.
Oh
for
yeah,
sure.
yeah.
Yeah.
There is the future. There's the future.
Yes.
Sometime next year. Hopefully that we'll have a nice announcement for all other nerd fans out there that are clamoring to get their teeth into something fun and original.
Yeah. Absolutely, dude. We should certainly give little hints and teases as the times go by because I think it's super awesome, man. But anyway,
Thank
yeah. All right. Thanks, man. And go ahead, Denali. Where can everyone reach you? And of course, your closing comments, sir.
Sure. Everybody can reach me at my Twitter, which is Denali101. Or you can hit me up on Fanspeak, the group page on Facebook, which we have the link below. I'm usually posting up news that I find interesting. I go through the whole spectrum. I sometimes do look into Mary Sue just for the occasional.
Seriously, guys, Denali doesn't get enough love for the amount of crap he has to read.
Yes.
So send some love his way.
Please do. Yes.
So we can be all informed of the whole spectrum of what everybody's advertising or thinking. And catch up with us every week, every day at 8 p.m. with Comics News Today, where we talk about the news, some interesting articles, and give our comments. We also have Fanspeak on Friday at 8 p.m. Join us there because it's always a lot of fun. And we have, like Chester said earlier in the show, at 9 p.m. tomorrow, the Halloween special, where we're doing the raffle with Comics Titans fundraiser. You still have a chance to buy raffles, so go over there at facebook.com/Comics Titans and buy a raffle and help for a good cause for people who are having a hard time economically and they want to be part of the community and get some of the books that these creators are putting out as well. And you might get a chance to win some real cool stuff as well.
Yes, that is true.
And then we also have our voting for the art contest for the logo for Fanspeak and mascot. I think, when would that be concluding tonight at 11:59?
That will be tonight. That'll be ending. But honestly, get your submissions in. As long as they're in, honestly, a few hours before we do the show, it'll be fine. But we're not being so crazy strict about that. But yeah, basically, it ends tonight. And I know there's several that are coming in, dropping in today. But yeah, looking forward to that. That's going to be awesome, man.
Yeah. So, and then, like I always close every show, your reality is shaped by your perception, so always make it a good one.
Namaste. Yes.
Namaste.
And go ahead, Tank. Where can we find
All right. Well, you can find me at Twitter, Instagram, Facebook at Tank Ferret Art. You can watch me draw a sexy skunk girl pinup tonight later on Cross Comics channel. So go check out Cross Comics. I'm going to be there drawing a sexy pinup of the Unbreathable Skunk Girl from Good Dog Press.
Oh, sweet. When are you going to do a sexy pinup of me, man? I can pose. I'm a good model.
It's true.
It is true. No, I got not gonna bite. No bites on that. Yeah, some
Nothing.
comedy is subjective, isn't it? Oh well.
Yeah,
Well, thank you very much, guys. And
everyone's a critic.
everyone is a critic, dude. Absolutely. What time zone? Yeah, yes. Tomorrow, as Nelly had said, absolutely come over and join us for our Halloween special at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on this channel. We're going to have a lot of fun. We got some cool things that are going to be going on. And come join us and spend your Halloween with us. It's going to be a good time for all. So thank you for asking that question, Kat. And also, Pixel Trader has a little bit of an announcement here, which is very awesome. He says, I'm going to launch the new IndieCron UI tomorrow, maybe during the live stream. Ooh, that is very cool. And of course, if you guys didn't know that IndieCron, Pixels IndieCron is the sponsor of this channel, Fanspeak, and his IndieCron is invaluable, not only to a customer who wants to go and see what's all available within the community as far as the Indiegogo books are, but also to the pros. I mean, it's we've heard several of them say that they use that to check how their campaign is doing rather than going to their own campaign page because it's so quick. It has all the information. It updates itself constantly. So Indicron is invaluable here, and absolutely go over and check that out and use it. So thank you all very much, and we will see you tomorrow. Later.